Right. Welcome to the first episode of book two of Soul of the Story. I am here today with an incredible guest, a brilliant light, a Grammy Award winner, uh, an incredible actress, uh, Celia Rose Gooding. Thank you so much for being here today, Celia. How are you today?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. When I was made aware that this was happening, I was like, whatever needs to happen, I want to get on there. I want to show my face. I want to share support. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited to be here.
I really appreciate that because it's just, first of all, we've met twice.
Hmm.
And each time has been really great for me. I don't know about you, but it's been great for me. And it's been a lot of
It was
fun.
great for me too. It's really nice to meet you and see you. And I feel like so many of these things, you see people in passing, or you like see each other at cons, or we
Right.
exchange via email. And so it's really nice to put a face and an energy to the name and meet you and know you.
Absolutely. And your energy is like always here. And I'm so grateful for that.
Thank
Um,
you.
and yeah, absolutely. And I thought this would be really interesting to have you on Soul of the Story
Hmm.
and just start to understand and talk a little bit about your career and your story,
Hmm.
not just Star Trek, which we all love, and we all love you as
Thank you.
Nyota Uhura on Star Trek. But before we're gonna get to that, but before we get to that, what I want to
Hmm.
do is I really want to start with the beginning of your story. So
Hmm.
can you tell me what was that first spark that inspired you to go on this path?
Hmm.
And I understand you're in a family of art and artists.
Hmm.
And how did that play into it?
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. I come from a community of very creative people. My mother is an incredible artist. She's my greatest inspiration. Um, I've always been a very creative kid. I've always been very expressive, very flamboyant, very I was singing before I was talking.
Oh
And
wow.
so
Wow.
I feel like I've always had that creativity craving in me. It was just a matter of what systems were I going to find myself in so that that could be fostered. So I went to as a kid I went to a small school, and by second first grade even we were doing Shakespeare. We were doing little Shakespeare medleys of like we would do scenes from different shows and we would put that all together. And I don't even know how old you are in first grade, but I was a young kid on stage.
Right.
And I think the feeling of storytelling, the feeling of guiding an audience through a story, having them trust you, having them entertained by you. I love making people laugh. I love making people smile. I love making people think. Um, I love representing my community well. I just love all of the good things that come with theater. And so, because I come from such creative people, that sort of energy was always catered to. It was always fostered. It was always supported. Um, because the best thing you can do for a child with a dream is feed that dream.
To encourage it.
Um, and so yeah, by as early as first grade, I was doing stage performance. Middle school, I went to a very academic middle school. It wasn't a very arts forward education, but I
Right.
always found a way to get into the acting classes, to audition for the school plays, to be a part of the jazz band. I always wanted to do something creative.
Wow.
And so I was doing that through middle school. High school was when things really shifted for me in a very professional way. In my junior year of high school, I was asked to be a part of a reading for a musical called Jagged Little Pill.
Jagged Little Pill. Right.
Yes, and so that was sort of my big claim to fame, as some would call it. But I did that my junior year, and then I left my senior year of high school early to go do the out of town tryout for Jagged Little Pill at ART in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so I that was when I think my mom saw that, like, because I'm so passionate and because I'm so like ravenous when it comes to my dreams,
Right.
I needed somebody to be like, hey, education is important. You got to go to school. You got to
You
do that.
got to do the school thing, right?
Yes. And so me and my mom came to an agreement of, if Jagged Little Pill gets the Broadway offer, I'll go do it on Broadway. But if Jagged Little Pill doesn't, I will go to college, I'll be a student, I'll get a degree, and then I'll come back and try acting again when I have just a foundation of how to be an adult in the world. And education is incredibly important for that foundation. And I still
That's
believe in that.
that's
Um,
beautiful.
but luckily enough, we got that Broadway offer. So I was working on Broadway at the age of 19. I was leading a Broadway show at the age of 19. I it feels so far away to think about that version of myself, truthfully, but I
And it's
remember
really not,
being,
but it must feel like it, right?
no, it feels like a completely different lifetime ago. I find
Wow.
myself looking at like photos and videos that I took at the time, because I'm very Gen Z. I'm always in that damn
Right, right.
phone. And yeah, I just look back and I'm like, wow, what a different version of myself. I had so much to learn. I had so much to experience. I had so much to like, I just had so much more living to do. And to
And
be 19 and be in that environment, it had its pros, it has its cons. I think being that young and working in a field and working in an industry that like fast paced, that business centric, it was, yeah, it has its pros, it had its cons. And then I was doing that show up until the shutdown in March. But luckily enough, the casting team, Orly and Margie, they saw me in Jagged Little Pill right before it shut down. And when casting for Strange New World started happening in like December, November of 2020, I auditioned for
wow.
Yaboa. I didn't even audition for Uhura yet. They gave me an
Right. It was a
alias
different
that I auditioned
character,
for.
right? It was a different.
Yeah.
All right. So but let me back up a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
first, I would like to talk just a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about your mom,
Mm-hmm.
LaChanze Gooding,
LaChance.
LaChanze Gooding, who is a Tony Award phenomenal
She's a Broadway
winner.
legend. She's an icon. She's a star.
She is literally a living legend
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
Broadway. Incredible voice. And so, what was it like growing up in a household where your mother is obviously singing around the house
Mm-hmm.
and just hearing her voice, not knowing? I get the impression that you probably didn't know all of those things as a little small kid, but
Oh
you hear
yeah.
right, but you hear your mom singing and all that. So how did her singing and how did that did that speak to you? Like, did her voice and hearing her, did that reach you at all when it came to your voice?
Yes, totally. I absolutely. I think my mom sang to me a lot when I was in her belly. I had always felt very connected to her and connected to myself
Right.
when I hear her sing. There's something really wonderful about singing, and it makes you feel in your body in a way that is very different. There aren't many things that put you in your body the same way that singing does.
True.
I'm not gonna hold you. I was a bit of a diva as a kid. I always thought I was a star. I was like, but here's the thing: my family inflated my head a little bit, because every birthday, if there was a family in the birthday, we would all get on a phone call. We'd all pick up our landlines, and they would have Celia sing the happy birthday song. So I'd
Right.
always been performing. I'd always
Right.
been a performer. And so I think seeing my mom and seeing how herself she looked. I've always known my mom to be this like beautiful stage performer. She's always been that to me. She has been my mom the whole time, but
Of course.
I think my understanding had always been there. Just the depth of my understanding grew as I got older and older. But I remember watching her win her Tony for the first time,
Oh wow.
and I was 6 years old. And this is like, I don't have a lot of memories of being a young kid, but I remember it very vividly when she won her Tony. I was too young to be in the room, so I was watching it on TV, and I put both my hands on the screen, and I was small. I was 6 years old. I couldn't
Right,
really
right. You
even
were six
see
years
all
old.
the
Right,
TV at
right,
once.
right.
But just her joy on her face, and the I don't know, my family has had its fair share of hardships, and my mother is a real warrior. And so I understand how precious joy is, how precious unquestionable joy is.
Yes,
And that was the
yes.
first time I'd really seen my mom like not happy for her kids, not happy for her industry, but just proud of herself.
Self, right, right.
And I was just like, yeah, whatever she did to get there, I want to get there too. And yeah, it just made the most sense to follow in her footsteps. It's especially as Black women, it's real uncharted territory to try and make a name for yourself on your own. And so
Absolutely.
I take great pride in following in my mother's footsteps. I take great pride in being LaChance's daughter, and having the knowledge of the family that I come from be something that propels me forward in a room. Sorry, I don't know why my Zoom just zoomed out in
No,
such a
that's
way.
okay
It's
because it
very
was a great
cinematic.
moment. It was a great moment. It was.
Yeah. Good. Well, yeah, I take great pride in my family, and my mom is definitely a huge part of just how I am able to move about the world as confidently as I am.
So that's incredible because this had me thinking, like prepping for all this had me thinking the your talent, the power of your voice, just your energy, your poise. Was there ever a point where you considered, you know, as a young woman, maybe I just want to go into music. Maybe I want to try and become a pop star, which you could be easily. You know, I mean, easy. I mean, in
Yeah.
my opinion, my
No,
humble
I
opinion.
appreciate that. I do.
You know, and
Yeah.
but did you ever think of that as opposed to like literally following in your mother's footsteps?
Truthfully, no.
That's wow. That's
I
great.
I I had always considered myself when I think theater specifically has a really interesting way of categorizing performers. I think TV and film allows for more diversity of talent, but
Yes.
in theater, you're either a dancer who can sing and act, you're an
Right.
actor who can sing and dance a little bit, or you're a singer who can act really well. I always categorize myself as an actor who can sing and also can two step a little bit if it's necessary. I never really considered myself someone who could market themselves as a singer first. And I think I still feel that way. I think I'm the proudest of my acting talent, truthfully. I think singing is something that has always been mine. I've always felt very precious of it. Singing is something that I do to connect myself to myself. Acting is the thing that storytelling is the thing that I want to do publicly. That is the thing that I want to put on a stage. And I've been really, really, really fortunate to be able to mix both of those two loves together and be recognized for that on scales that I could have never possibly imagined.
Wow. You're wow. So I definitely can relate to that because
Mm-hmm.
directing was the first and film was the first thing I wanted to do. But
Mm-hmm.
then I realized writing was something that was actually speaking to me more in the moment, and that's what I've stuck
Mm-hmm.
with. So
And you're a great writer.
well, thank you. Thank you. I
You're a
appreciate that.
wonderful writer.
I
I see your
appreciate
book
that.
in the corner.
Yeah, yeah, it's
South
there.
San
It's
Francisco.
there.
I see that.
It's
I
there.
absolutely do. And I have my copy at home. And my
Thank
mom
you.
has her copy too.
Thank you very much.
Of
S-
course.
So, but for you, you're saying, if I'm understanding that it was
Hmm.
actually acting that spoke to you more to give to the world,
Yes.
and music was more personal.
Yes.
That's
Music
it.
is the thing that I use to guide myself.
Right.
Acting is the thing that I use to showcase my talent to the world. If I never had to sing again publicly, I'd be just fine. If I never got an opportunity to act again, I would be a shell of a person.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right. I can understand that. Wow,
Hmm.
that's amazing. All right, so okay, so now we've established uh where you are as an individual, that it's
Hmm.
acting, and that music is this personal beautiful thing for you on the inside.
Hmm.
Um and you're in high school
Mm-hmm.
which is really kind of nuts. You're in high school and you're working on Jagged Little Pill, and you do the you audition for it,
Mm-hmm.
and you get it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like, getting that audition, realizing that, okay, this is actually happening. It's not like a
Yeah.
wish, it's not like a thing. It is happening. They
Yeah.
want you. And I want to ask you, how did that affirm to you, or what did it affirm to you as an
Mm-hmm.
artist? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, no, that's a beautiful question. I've actually I don't get asked such thoughtful questions often. Um I I'm gonna zoom out a little bit just so I can really hone in on
Take it as, yeah,
how impactful Jagged Little Pill was for my life. I went to a really academic high school. I was not very book smart. I have ADHD. I had a really hard time excelling in a sort of academic institution. And
right.
so junior year is when you start doing college applications and you start talking about your GPA and you start thinking about like, and I went to an Ivy prep school. Like I went to a school that was like, so we produce Ivy League students. I was not an Ivy League student. And so when the time came around for sending in applications and I was getting rejection after rejection after rejection and waitlist after waitlist after waitlist, I really didn't know what the future for myself was going to look like. Because if I didn't go to college, if I didn't have this dream, like I'd be, I don't know, folding clothes at Macy's. And no shade to people who fold clothes at Macy's,
No
but
shame, no, not
I'm
at
an
all.
artist. I want to make art.
Right, absolutely.
And so I the day that I had booked Jagged Little Pill was it was one of the craziest days. I was having a really difficult time. I just got out of a really frustrating meeting with my college advisor and her sharing with me just the reality of my situation, that my GPA was not really incredibly high. I had a real regular below average GPA. And I was just really down on myself and I had no idea. And I'd made this agreement with my mom that like if Jagged didn't go, I was gonna go to school. What school I was gonna go to, I didn't know. I had a handful of rejections in my hands. And so
Right.
I didn't really have a future in mind for myself. And then I get the call that Jagged Little Pill is going to Broadway and I'm gonna lead it. I'll cry right now, actually.
I'll cry with you.
It it it
It's
it
amazing.
affirmed so much more in me than just my talent. It affirmed a future for me. It affirmed my life continuing. It affirmed another chapter for me. I thought my story was over. And so when I got that call, I was in the middle of I was a senior, and I my mom was the one. My mom was the one who broke the news to me that I had booked it, and I remember her calling me, and I knew that was the day that I was going to get the call, that it was either going or it wasn't. And my mom was really, she did the thing that every good and kind parent should do, and that is prepare them for the best, but also prepare them for the worst. She was like, "Hey, Celia, this is really exciting, and I know you're excited. Broadway is a business, and it is kind and it is cruel. So just prepare yourself to get another bit of bad news today. It may go, people love it. The out of town, I'm sorry, this is pre out of town. The reading went so well. And I had it in my contract that if I was going to do the out of town tryout, I was going to go do it on Broadway. It was either do the out of town with me and keep me or do it with somebody else. And yeah, my mom called me and she said, do you want to keep your middle name in the playbill? And I just burst into tears. I ran out of I have this big like Hogwarts looking ass high school, and I run out of the building and I just sit in the grass and I like have two fistfuls of grass and I'm just weeping,
That's a beautiful
openly
memory,
weeping.
though.
Like,
Oh.
like I remember seeing my peers, and here's the thing, I'm drama whether the cameras are on or not. So people thought that I just got news that somebody important to me had passed on, weeping openly. And my best friend, Kiani Marshall, shout out to her.
Oh.
There's a video of, oh gosh, there's a video of her speaking so much life into me. I love Black women. I love the way Black women support each
Yes,
other.
we love Black women.
It is.
Yes.
I
Yes.
just, I would, my mom, I
Yes.
still was on the phone with my mother, but the phone is in the grass. And Kiani, my friend Elon, another Black woman, is taking the video, and Kiani's just like, I told you you could do it. It was.
And doesn't that because then it kind of like silences all those inner doubts, right? And all those voices that are like, oh, well, maybe you can't, or oh, maybe you're not the one, or.
And let me tell you, them voices were loud, Derek.
And those voices are loud.
Were loud. They were
we
loud,
know, right? We know. So, right. But then it all, I mean, I'm not saying it quiets them 100%, but it tells them, you know what, for the time being, just be quiet. Of
like, right. Maybe you don't know everything.
Maybe, right.
Maybe you have the capacity to be wrong.
Right. Right.
Maybe goodness, right. Maybe I am deserving of the dreams that I've had.
Right. Right.
And so, that was.
So then you go to Broadway.
Yeah. And then I star in a Broadway show.
Star in a Broadway show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I just want to know, I just want to spend a little time with this because
let's do it.
I've done a little tiny, like, in college, like AD work, theater AD work and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so, I just want to paint a picture for people that this is not like film or television. You are on a stage, you have your lines, and there are lights coming down at you, and there is an audience out there, and there is not a lot of barrier.
No, no barrier.
Right, there's no barrier.
No editing, no reshoots.
Right.
You do it one time. Then that's what I love about live theater. You have an audience, and you get to do it once for that group of people, and you share that story, and then it is never repeated again. Streaming is wonderful because it is, yes, although it is behind a paywall, it is, I think, much more accessible than TV, than theater, because theater is an incredibly expensive industry. But it is also very. I think it's an artist's medium.
Yes.
It is. Yes. An artist has full control of their character. Once those lights go down, you have a script, yes, but you can do whatever you want. Really, like you are in 100% control of your character and your story.
Yes.
In a way that is very different in TV and film. In TV and film, you do your 6, 7, 8 takes, because I take my time. And then you have somebody in an office months later who's just chopping and splicing and picking out the best bits that tell their story. It's very different, very, very different. And Jagged Little Pill was a 2.5 hour show.
2.5 hours. So
2.5 hours, and we did it twice in one day.
You're building the story as you go on live on stage, and it's a little different every night, right? So, I mean, how do you, as a storyteller, what is it like for you now as a storyteller, doing that on Broadway and doing that for television? Yeah,
I think they're very different. I think that I see talent as a sword. It is something that is forged. It is something that is crafted. It is something that is hammered and hammered and hammered and perfected and perfected and perfected. And I think that theater is it's a real, like, I can only describe it as primal. It is so human forward. It is so humanity focused. It requires, like, what you see on stage is about 50% of what's actually happening. There is crew, there is lights, there is costumes, there is sound, there is mics, there are blocking, there's choreography, there's an entire ensemble. There's so much happening that you are a part of a choreographed show. The show
Right.
has every Broadway show has backstage choreography. Like there are dressers making sure that during this song, this is when I get this outfit set up. It has to be that choreography, and you cannot step away from the choreography because then it can throw off the whole show. TV and film is very different. You can pause, you can hold, you can try new things, you can get notes from a director in the middle of a take. It's just different. I think, and again, with TV and film, what we do on set is, I think, even less of what comes out in the final product, because you have score, you have CGI, you have ADR, you have so much other stuff, especially in Star Trek. You have so much other stuff that is added in post that can really change the whole undercurrent of the story you told 4 months ago.
Right. Make all those adjustments.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like theater is the nature of theater as a storyteller. I feel like I can really commit myself to the story in a way that in TV and film I cannot. Not because I do not want to, but because once I do my part, then the professionals take over and mix it up and bake the cake. TV and film, I'm baking the cake. I'm
Right.
sorry. In theater, I bake the cake.
No, I understand. Right.
In TV and film, I provide the ingredients and somebody bakes the cake for me. Does
Right.
it look like the same recipe I made that I had in mind? Maybe not. But it's still a wonderful, yummy,
Wonderful
delicious,
cake.
beautiful cake.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
in theater, I am my own chef.
Right. You have more control
Yes.
over
Yes.
what's happening.
Yes.
And as a result of that, you
Mhm.
were nominated for a Tony for Jagged Little Pill,
Yes.
and you won a Grammy,
I was. I sure
right?
did.
And you won a Grammy for Jagged Little Pill. What was that experience like?
Crazy.
Crazy, right?
Crazy town, banana pants. Crazy. It was insane. And I'll start with the Grammy first, because that I did not think that my behind was going to get a Grammy for anything. But because again, like we said earlier, singing is my private thing. Singing is my sweet personal joy. I didn't think that like the universe is going to be like, yes, girl, keep doing that. Like I wanted to do it for me, and if I just sung for me for the rest of my life, that would have been enough. But to be on a cast album with so much incredible talent and to have that recognized by the Recording Academy, and not even just be like, oh, you were on this cast album. No, you were a principal vocalist. Your vocal got you this Grammy, boo boo. It is. It just wasn't something that I even fathomed. I always had like big EGOT dreams, but I always thought I was like, the Grammy is going to be the hardest one for me to get because I'm not a pop star. I don't put out music like that. And it was the first one I got. I was like, oh, the universe is funny. She will shut you up so quick. She said, oh, you thought that was going to be hard? Actually, it's the easiest thing you've ever done. Go ahead.
Right.
And so I remember I was actually getting ready I was in lockdown to get ready to shoot season 1 of Star Trek. Excuse me. When I remember I was sitting in my bed because it was the live stream Grammys. It was 2020. Nobody was together. I was sitting in Toronto,
It was COVID, right?
On my bed, and I just won a Grammy. And so I closed my laptop and I looked to my empty apartment, getting ready to go shoot in one of the most beloved sci-fi franchises in American history.
Wow.
And that was the moment where I was like, I have control over nothing. The universe has its own will. I'm gonna hang along for the ride, and whatever spirit has in store for me, I will accept it with open arms, because I'm not dreaming big enough. Clearly. That's what I learned.
I understand that.
That's what I learned. Oh gosh, sorry for something in my eye.
That's okay. No, I definitely understand that. At the same time, though, I feel like it's also a lesson of stay the course. Right?
Exactly.
Right? Stay the course.
Exactly.
If you ever thought that you're not on the right course, stay the course.
Just
And that's a message, stay the course. When when people, for me, it's like when fans tell me something about that they appreciate about something about the Cisco book, that's an affirmation for me, stay the course, stay the course. So yeah, so I definitely understand. So all right, so we've covered you moving from adolescence into Broadway, into the awards. I want to talk now. What happened? Did you go for specifically for Star Trek? Did you hear, like, did your agent hear it was happening? Can you talk a little bit about that?
sure. Yeah, I didn't know that it was happening.
Okay.
I didn't know that there was I don't follow sci-fi. I love garbage reality television and competition shows. That's my type of that's my type of TV. And like sitcoms. I'm getting very much back into like the My Wife and Kids, the Martins, I'm just getting back into like that sort of older sitcom era. I wasn't into like a lot of modern sci-fi TV.
Right.
And so my agent just sent me this. I do a lot of TV auditions, or I had been doing a lot of TV auditions, and I just auditioned. The casting reached out to my team. They were like, "Hey, we saw this person in Jagged. We would love for them to audition for the role of Yaboa for." And they didn't give me the. It was like a Star Trek show, but they didn't tell me what the title of it was. They called it something else.
Right.
And I was like, "Y'all."
Okay.
Okay, sure. Why not? I didn't know enough about Star Trek to understand. I always like respectfully, I always thought Star Trek was like, oh, that's like not for my people. That's just that wasn't my thing. I thought Star Trek, like Star Wars, was a very like white male predominant, because I didn't know my history. I didn't know my history. And so I auditioned at like I woke my friend up, my sweet Scorpio bestie, Adriana Santiago, love you, diva. She sat with me at like 2 o'clock in the morning. That I could do the self tape. I was so delirious. I had half a mind to be like, they don't want me for this. But I remember being in like a black high collar turtleneck, and my background was bright red.
Wow.
And I didn't know enough about Star Trek to be like, hey, baby, you're manifesting
you're
right
manifesting
now.
the red,
right now.
Wow.
And so I sent in the the self tape. It was 2 scenes, and there were 2 scenes that exist in the show today. I auditioned with the scene where Uhura realizes that Ortegas is pranking her with the dress uniform
With
for the captain's dinner, and the scene where Uhura is razzing Spock on the comment about Chapel. Your girlfriend must love that, huh? That was in my audition. And it all happened so fast. December, I sent in my self-tape. A few days later, I was meeting with casting. A few days later, I was talking to Akiva and Henry. And then like 2 weeks later, I found out I booked it, and that I was gonna have to move to Canada by myself because the country was still shut down because we're in the middle of COVID-19. Like, I remember feeling really, really overwhelmed and being like, oh my God, I have to move in a week. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. And I told my agent, I was like, you have to tell them I need more time. I'm living by myself for the longest time I'd ever lived.
Living by yourself?
Pretty much. Well, when I did the out of town tryout, I lived by myself, but I was living in cast housing. So I had adults keeping an eye on my 19-year-old self living in Cambridge for the first time. With this, I was just like, I'm moving into an apartment in Canada, gonna live by myself.
Another country.
For 6 months in another country without any, none of my family can come with me. The country is closed.
Shut down. Right.
So I kissed my mom at the airport, and the next time I saw her was when I was done shooting the first season.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's Star Trek, so you have to produce. You have to be on.
Yes.
You have to
And
go
it was my
there.
first TV
Right.
gig ever.
So you have to go there and put all that aside and be on.
Yeah, be on and present. And I'm working with Anson Mount and Ethan Peck and Rebecca Romaine and Melissa Navia and Christina Chong.
And
I'm
be
like,
at that
I'm working
level.
with people. And my 20-year-old, my freshly turned 21-year-old self being like, hi everyone. What is coverage? What do these things mean? Huh? And I was so nervous. Poor sweet Celia. I was like, I just wanted to do well. I wanted to prove. I was still very naive in my thinking of like, I have to prove everybody that I'm worthy to be here. Now I understand that the proving is done. I'm here.
You're here.
I'm on contract. Y'all are stuck with me for an X amount of years, whether I'm good enough or not. I did it. The hard part's over. Welcome to me.
Right.
And so yeah, I remember my first day on set was a bridge day. And we had this really big sweeping crane shot where Star Trek is such a massive production. Paramount and CBS are just huge corporations. And so we have a lot of like high tech camera stuff. So we have this giant, like 100-foot long crane, just massive pieces of machinery. And this camera is like coming at me at a really, really fast pace. I had never been shot like that before. I'm a theater kid. I'm not used to having a camera in. I have to get used to not looking down the barrel. I remember the camera's coming at me, and because I am new, because I am reasonably insecure, I duck. I duck out of my shot. I duck because I think the camera's gonna hit me.
Totally understandable.
And everyone laughed, but not in a way that like they were laughing at
no,
me.
Right, not at you. No, at your newness at the moment.
Yes,
right.
It was like everyone in that moment, and I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad I ducked, because it allowed that feeling of like, they're all rooting for you to fail. They're waiting for you to fuck it up. It put that voice of like, maybe you don't know everything. Maybe the people understand exactly who you are when they hired you. They knew you were new, and you are worth slowing it down and being patient for. You're worth that.
You're worth it.
Get out of your own way, baby. We got a job to do. Time is money.
Right.
And yeah.
And that moment of authenticity and just genuineness, maybe that was an icebreaker.
It absolutely was. Absolutely, wholeheartedly. It allowed me to make a mistake, because that's my greatest fear in the world, is being seen failing. But I was allowed to make a mistake, and it wasn't the end of the world. In theater, that would have been the end of the world. In TV and film, we'll be like, oh no, it's fine, Celia. The camera's gonna stop here. We'll just do it again. Right.
Well, in life, we learn more from the truth is, we learn more from our failures.
We sure do.
Our successes.
We sure do. So, I completely agree.
Right. So that's just amazing. So, do you think that you brought Broadway, your Broadway chops, how have they helped you in Star Trek?
I think that theater is some of the most, and no shade to TV and film. TV and film is a beautiful art form. Absolutely. I think theater is the most authentic style of storytelling available.
Yes.
I think theater class, theater training is so important. It forces you to put your entire body around a story in a way that TV and film is more often focused on like your belly button to about 2 inches above your head. It's not, you don't need to worry about how you're standing. You don't need to worry about your posture. I have a dance background, and being able to play a dancer, I find that if I didn't have my theater training, I wouldn't know how to like reach for something so gracefully as Nichelle does. I wouldn't know how to like touch and move and brim and all that stuff without my theater training. So I completely agree. And I stand in the fact that if I don't know if I would have been able to be the Uhura that I am without the theater training that I had. And we got to do a musical episode. which is the
Right.
most Broadway thing that Star Trek has ever done.
And it was amazing. It was
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. I'm still very, very, very proud of it.
I often just put it on in the background and just listen to your voice and listen to the voices of the
you.
actors,
Oh,
and just like
gosh.
it feeds me. It feeds me.
Thank you. It's very kind.
Thank you. But I want to talk now about the role,
Yeah.
because in many ways you have taken on the role of perhaps the first Black woman in, at least in contemporary
Say it.
science fiction, the first Black female character in science fiction on television, for
In
sure.
TV.
In TV, for sure.
In TV, to not
Right?
be a like
To be
a caricature, a stereotype,
for sure.
a simplistic
Right.
version of what a Black woman could be.
For sure. For
Mhm.
sure. And I know as a kid watching her, it was something different about it. Was a presence.
Mhm.
And even before I realized that was the actress, and it was some of the character, and it was the actress embodying that.
Mhm.
And when she sang, I was like, oh, this is different. And her being a little flirty with Spock, that was that was
Mhm.
different.
Mhm.
And what she did and her evolution. So what has and what is Uhura for you, and what do you feel about Uhura, and what do you want to bring to this character beyond what everyone else? What do you want to bring to her?
That's a really wonderful question. I don't think I've ever given myself an opportunity to really think about it like that. I my approach to this character is very much in service to it. It is I'm very, very protective of Uhura. I am, and the writers I'm sure are so sick of me. But I am very, very specific with how I want her to be seen, especially by today's middle America. Because today's middle America is very different than, well, actually, I don't know how different they are these days. Let's talk about it.
Right? In many ways it's
But
different, in many ways it's the same.
exactly. And so knowing that, I am very much someone who's like, I need Uhura to be human. I need her to be whole. I need her to make mistakes. I need her to be challenged. I need her to be supported. I need her to be loved. I need her to be protected. I need her to be protecting. I wanted her to remind me of every aunt I've ever had. I wanted her to remind me of the golden hearted Black women that I know exist. The sensitive, the vulnerable, the spongy, tender, soft things that Black women are often denied in TV. We have to be the strong day saver. We have to be the like militant, tough love guide, shepherd of somebody else's story. And Uhura, as she has always been, is somebody who just steps out of that. She's fun, she's flirty, she has depth, she has trauma, she has baggage, and I just want to live in service to that. I just want to work in service to that. I think the thing, to answer your question as opposed to just waxing poetically, I want to bring dimensionality to her. I want to continue to keep her recognizable, but to keep her surprising. I want people to be like, oh, wow, I could have never imagined that for her. But now that I think about it, it makes total sense. That's what I want. I want my Uhura to make sense to the fans at the end of the day, because the fans are the reason why the fans are the reason why I have job security. And so what I'm not gonna do is piss off the fans by trying to turn Uhura into somebody she's not.
Well, you're definitely doing that,
Thank you.
because I see in your Uhura, I see the constant questioning of herself, of and her figuring out the paths of her journey. And you couldn't do that without a confidence and an assuredness of that you have.
Thank you.
So
I find that Uhura has given me, as is Frankie Healy, the character I played in Jagged, I've been able to play really, really inspiring women. I've had a really wonderful opportunity to play some characters that allow me to see parts of myself that I haven't even gotten a chance to play in. Celia, at her core, can be a very anxious person. I'm somebody who loves the idea of control. I love being able to have a plan for everything. I love being able to walk into a room and feel like I belong. And of course, as a Black person, that's incredibly difficult.
Right.
And Uhura is somebody, I think our main difference lies in her ability to just be so vulnerable about her lack of knowing. She's able to show up and be like, hey, these are my skills. This is
Right.
what I can provide to a space. Everything else is out of my hands. And that is not a failure of my own. That is just because I do not know. And Uhura has given me confidence to walk into a space and just ask questions. Like she has given me confidence to know that I have something to provide to a room, but also it is not a failure of myself to walk into a room and require things. Which is, I think, I don't think that's something unique to me. I think that is something very common, heartbreakingly common amongst Black women. That we are supposed to walk into a room and know everything and be everything and do everything and have everything. We're not celebrated for walking into a room and being like, can somebody help me, please?
Absolutely.
Can I am scared, I am nervous, I don't know how to move forward. Please help me. We don't get to do that.
We don't get to do that. We don't get the Black women specifically. I think Black people as a whole, but Black women
I completely agree with you. Completely.
Don't get to make those mistakes.
And not be redeemable, and not be seen as redeemable.
And not be seen as redeemable. You have to be on, you have to be good, and you know, you don't really get second.
We don't get second chances.
Second or third chance.
At all. We barely had a first. If we talking about it.
It's true. It's
like,
true.
And so to play in Uhura that is, we know the Uhura she grows into. We know the confident, the spunky, the fierce, the funny, the flirty, the feisty girl. But I think it's really, really, really important to impress upon audiences, especially people who see themselves in Uhura, that she was not always this way.
Yes. Yes.
At some point, she was young.
Yes.
And nervous and confused and needed guidance from her peers and from her superior officers. And that does not make her valueless.
Yes.
That vulnerability enriches the person that she becomes. She's allowed to dance on the bridge because at some point she didn't know if she was going to sit there.
Yes.
She now can, oh God, there is something so beautiful about that.
Yes.
Hold on.
Right.
She
right.
was allowed to sing and dance in spaces that she didn't even know she could belong in. She had to be public and say, hey, I don't know if I'm meant to be here. So that when she understands it, when we see her dancing and flirting and giggling with her superior officers, it's because earlier, those are the people being like, hey, you have a spot here.
Her trajectory from that episode when she was just, you know, in her dress uniform to the musical episode is light years apart. Right?
And yes, absolutely.
And it's everything you're talking about. It's
and it's to pivot back to your to the core of your question. It was never something that I was like, oh, I need to do this. I want to do this. This is something that has to happen. It is me being like, how can I represent my community? How can I give the world an opportunity to see my people differently?
Right.
It is never a thing that like, oh, I want to do this. It is, let me rephrase that. It's not something that I want to do this for me. I want to do this because I'm good at this. It's more, I want to do this so that everyone that looks like me, everyone who sees themselves in me, and people who even don't see, actually, of course I'm doing this for my community. Of course I'm doing this so that people who see themselves in Uhura can see themselves as multidimensional people. But I'm also doing it for those who do not relate to Uhura at all. Who do not understand her background, who do not know, who could not possibly fathom what it is like to spend a day in her skin.
I totally get it. You start to become a conduit for many things.
Yes, it is for people to see dimensionality in others that in often places they are just not allowed to have. And it feels really silly to say that in 2025, but as the world around us is proving to tell us, some folks need to be reminded that not one, we are all human beings capable of dimensionality, and we
Yes.
deserve to have that seen. We deserve to have it celebrated. We deserve to have it challenged. We deserve to see it and reminded of it every single Thursday when we turn on our Paramount Plus accounts.
That's right. And Celia, for many, many, many Star Trek fans, you will be the first Uhura that they are introduced to.
Crazy sentence. A crazy thing you said to me just now. that is the thing that I think will be not the hardest, but that will be one of the things that I wrestle with as I continue to grow and age and understand my place in this world and in this industry and in this franchise. The idea, it's a lot for me to take in. I think, to boil it down to something really, really small, because I am just one person trying to receive a whole lot of stimuli and information. There's this, I can't remember their names now and I feel awful, but there's this one daddy-daughter combo, a cosplay combo, and it was the first time I had seen a little Black girl dressed up as my Uhura, specifically, my bald Uhura.
Right.
It was the first time I'd ever been like seeing someone, and this is like, I'm Uhura and it's me. That is crazy. It gooped me. Again, I'm such I feel like a conduit of so many lives that I sometimes forget that I'm just one person living one life, and that me standing in a room while I have my ancestors and my community on my shoulders, at the end of the day, I'm just one kid.
Right.
And it just it it doesn't feel real. It is.
It
But
is real.
It feels very
real.
much like I'm not originating a character, but to see people recognize how this character is still fundamentally mine blows my mind.
Absolutely.
It blows my mind.
We have about 10 minutes left. So
oh damn. Excuse
I
me.
know. No, it's okay. There's something that I want to touch on it and ask you. I think it's important, and it goes with what we're speaking about. With everything you've done and everything that you're doing now, how do you pace yourself and prevent burnout?
I take it one day at a time. I think the nature of this country, if you don't challenge the idea of going, trying to monetize every little thing you possibly can, trying to do everything, trying to capitalize on a moment. I am somebody who, while acting is my dream and my love, and I love storytelling, I'm a human being with a life.
Right.
I sit on the couch and I watch TV and I call my friends, and like, people often ask me, they're like, well, what are you doing next? This!
Yes.
I will do this until they kick me off the platform. I don't want to do anything else. I am so fortunate to only have to work 6 months out of the year and be able to finance my life, my mother's, my sister's. I'm able to contribute to my community. I'm able to do mutual aid. I'm able to show up and still have a life. I think that's how I avoid burnout. I remind myself that, like, I don't gotta be doing every little thing. I'm fragile. I'm spongy. I get tired fast. I remind myself that I am allowed to hold on to what I have and not get greedy. I just don't feel a need to get greedy. If this is the only job I have for the rest of my life, fine. What I want to do,
that's amazing,
what I want to do is live a full rounded life. And because of the way capitalism works, because of the way imperialism works, because of the way this country works, people like we've almost convinced ourselves that like resting is a bad thing. Resting is only something that you get to do when you are at rock bottom. You're only at your best when you're producing and generating money and contributing to the system. I don't believe in that. I don't want to contribute to a system. I want to contribute to my joy. And Star Trek helps me contribute to my joy. And
Yes.
like
Yes.
when I'm done doing the work, I'm going to sit down somewhere and continue to pour into my joy. I'm going to sit in my backyard. I'm going to journal. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to see the world while I still can. I feel very, I don't know. I can't say that my mindset is rare, but I just feel like very different from some of my peers who I see are very, very hungry to be in every conversation.
I think we get caught up in it.
I'm not in the mood to be in every
Yeah.
conversation. I'm not in the mood to know everything. There are some things that I do not need to be a part of. There are some things that have nothing to do with me. And I think I learned that at a very early age, being a Black person in America.
Yes.
Because we are often excluded from the conversation.
Yes.
We are often left to our own devices. And instead of kicking and screaming and fighting to be a part of a system that does not give a damn about me, I'm going to go focus on the institutions that do. I'm going to pour into my Black queer spaces because that's where I'm seen. I'm going to continue to use the platform that I have to continue to show the world that Black people are multidimensional and that we are everything. We are everywhere, and this world would not exist without us. But then when I'm done being a beacon and a representative, I'm gonna go be a normal person so that I can show up and continue to do the hard, because I'm not gonna lie, being in Star Trek is a dream. Being in Star Trek is not easy.
No,
it is not playing an iconic character. It is fun. It is everything I've ever wanted. It is not easy. I crave, and I hope that as these next few years continue, I crave rest. I need my Black people to be greedy about rest.
Be greedy for rest.
Like, do not let this system trick you into overworking yourself, because this country was built on us overworking ourselves.
Literally.
I'm not doing that no more.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
I recently came to the same conclusion that too much work just doesn't, and especially I think as artists, slowing down is not a bad thing.
It is not. It is essential.
It is essential if you're going to try and produce art that says something and means something. And I was reminding people that in the 60s, when a lot of bad things were happening, and there were dogs biting people and water hoses on people, there was this thing called Star Trek that reminded us that, you know, we can have a society working together. And now there's a thing called Star Trek reminding us that there's a society where we can work and be and live and love together.
Yes, as long, and it's exactly what you said, as long as we continue to love together, because love, capitalism praises expensive things. Love is real cheap.
It really is.
Love is real cheap. Love is real accessible. Cost a thing,
right?
Love don't cost a thing. So what we need to do is realize that the system that prioritizes the expensive stuff, the inaccessible stuff,
right?
What we need to do is remind ourselves that the things that keep us, the things that push humanity forward, is the cheap stuff.
Right. Can't buy love.
You can't buy love. You can't buy ease. You can't buy joy.
You can't buy joy.
You can't buy community. And we need community to survive.
We need these things. We need these things. We need these things. Wow. I, I could just keep talking to you. I mean,
we can do this all day.
We can do this all
We can do
day.
this all day.
I really, really want to thank you for an amazing, fulfilling conversation.
Of course.
Is there anything as we close? Is there anything that you want to end on? You know what? Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this one last question.
Yeah, of course.
Since this is called Soul of the Story, so I wanted to know, have you ever thought at the end of at the end, when everything is said and done, what would you like to be said about your story? And take as much time as you want.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. I think in this moment, because I'm not going to try and speak on every life that I've ever lived.
Right.
In this moment today, I want to be remembered as a good servant to my community. I don't need to be remembered as a hero. I don't need to be remembered as a history maker or a groundbreaker or a game changer. I want to be remembered as a foot soldier in the army of Black liberation.
That's important.
That's what I want. I want to be able to be remembered as like, Celia did the best they could to continue to make sure that Black people see themselves as worthy of our inevitable liberation. That's what I want today.
I think, well, I don't say that. I know that you're already doing that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're doing that from before I even met you. But when I met you, it was clear that you're doing that.
Thank you.
But on top of that, you're not just hammering a message, you're also spreading joy.
Thank you.
That's what I love about you is you're a light, you're spreading joy.
Thank you.
Because a message is what we all need, but sometimes it just becomes heavy.
You know, it's heavy times.
It becomes heavy, but we need joy. So thank you so much for your joy. And
joy is so rebellious. And I think a part of me, a very youthful part of me, is really attracted to, like, I think rebellion, especially in this system that is America, rebellion is sexy to me personally. And joy, Black joy is rebellion. And I'm someone who is very much, if I were on the Titanic and it were sinking, I'd be singing. I'd be singing. I'd be doing I'd be singing.
Celia Rose Gooding, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so wonderful. I knew it. I was supposed to be doing this. I knew it. So thank you for being patient and understanding my schedule. I'm so glad. I'm so glad and so honored that you wanted to open this next chapter with me. When I talk about being a servant to my community, I'm talking about you, and I'm talking about the SyFy sisters. I want to do everything that I can with the platform that I have to make sure that y'all are seen and uplifted and validated and supported. And so you call, I answer. That's the way it is.
Thank you.
That's
so
the way
much.
it is.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the second season of Soul of the Story. And I just want to say, for everyone, thanks so much for being a part of this incredible community. And if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and of course, ring that bell so you never miss a conversation that we have here on Soul of the Story. And we're all about sharing authentic, at least we try to share authentic stories from incredible people like Miss Celia Gooding. Thank you so much.
Of course. I'm happy to do it. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. And join us again on SyFy Sistas Inc. next Tuesday for the live show. Thank you so much. Thank you.